What insanity is going to happen this NASCAR season? Let's predict it. Hey everyone, it's Taylor Kitchen and welcome back to Above the Yellow Line on the ATYL Media channel, where we do motorsports media your way, and on this show we talk about NASCAR all the time. And before we get into the video, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell so you know when we post. It feels so weird that we are already in the week of the Clash. Feels very odd, but we made it. And the 2025 season is upon us, which means my annual predictions video is releasing. So this is gonna be all of my predictions for 2025. I have over 10 predictions, so I really stretched it this year, but I think they're good. I think they're tough and definitely more pointed than in years past. So without further ado, let's get into it. Prediction number 1 touches on the great American race, the Daytona 500. We all kind of have our bets placed on 1 or 2 drivers to win this great event, and my bet is either Ryan Blaney or Kyle Busch are going to win the Daytona 500. Listen, both drivers have proven themselves at super speedways, especially Kyle Busch in RCR equipment. He's incredibly good at it, and he's come incredibly close at winning the summer race at Daytona. The Daytona 500, however, seems to elude him. For Ryan Blaney, he's always there towards the front of the pack near the end of these races, especially when we have a green-white checker. Unfortunately, though, that's when he constantly gets taken out of the Daytona 500. But I think this year the stars align for one of those 2 drivers, and we see one of them finally win the Daytona 500. So if my Daytona 500 prediction is wrong, I'm going to know this is going to be a flop of a year for my predictions. If I get it right, hopefully that means the rest of my predictions are pretty sound. Let's get to prediction number 2, though. Speaking of super speedways, we have a tendency to have plenty of overtime restarts. In the 2024 season, we had 13 overtime finishes, which is the most recorded in a single NASCAR season, and I hope to God we don't get close to that in 2025. So I'm thinking that we're going to clean up our act a little bit, and we're going to have only 8 overtime restarts in 2025. Fingers crossed. And I don't think all of those overtimes are going to come at super speedway races. I think we're going to have some potentially at Martinsville. That seems like a given, considering, you know, the race before the playoffs hit, chaos tends to ensue. I definitely think we're going to have one during the Martinsville fall race. We could see one at an intermediate track, whatever it may be. But I do think we're going to have less overtime restarts this year, fingers crossed yet again, with only 8. Keeping on theme with the NASCAR Cup Series, I think we're going to have 3 first-time winners all before the playoffs hit, and those drivers are going to be Todd Gilliland, Ty Gibbs, and I'm going to say Carson Hocevar. I think we can all predict that one of those 3 drivers is going to get their first win this year. However, I'm going to be bold and say it's going to be all 3 of them for Todd. I'm pretty sure it will come out of Super Speedway. Front Row Motorsports has an incredible Super Speedway program, and we know that their qualifying efforts are stellar. It's just about him putting together an entire race and being mistake-free, and of course, staying out of trouble. For Ty Gibbs, we know a win is coming. It's just a matter of when, and hopefully that team has been able to kick mechanical failures to the curb, so he has a fighting chance in 2025. And I really see Ty winning at any type of track. Maybe not a super speedway race, though he has shown great strength there in 2024. But I really do think he's going to be a threat anywhere we go. So looking forward to seeing him hopefully get his first win in 2025. And last but not least, of course, winning. I think Carson Hocevar has a chance to do it. And though his talent speaks for itself, he's had fantastic runs in 2024 in the number 77. I do think his win might come out of nowhere in the season. I don't think there's going to be kind of a build up to his win. I think it's just going to be a random, fantastic run that he has at like an intermediate track. And it'll be his first Cup Series win, and it will lock him into the playoffs. I guess technically, because all these wins are going to come before the playoffs start, those 3 drivers are going to have a spot in the playoff grid in 2025. So I guess now that I'm thinking about it, it's pretty bold, but I'm going to stick to it. Todd Gilliland, Ty Gibbs, and Carson Hocevar get their very first Cup Series wins in 2025. Speaking of Cup Series winners, let's shift gears to talk about a driver that won in their Cup Series debut, Shane Van Gisbergen. It's his first full-time season in the Cup Series in the number 88 with Trackhouse Racing. I don't want to put a number on his wins this year. I know he's going to win at road courses. I can guarantee it. My prediction is, though, that he's going to win back-to-back road course races. I don't think he's going to win at Circuit of the Americas, the first road course of the Cup Series season, because it's a track that doesn't really treat him well. He might do pretty good at that track, and then just something wild happens and he falls off a cliff. For me, though, I really do think that he could win the first Cup Series race at Mexico City and then follow that up with a win at the Chicago Street Course. Or he wins at the Chicago Street Course and then he follows that up with a win the following race at Sonoma. So there's definitely chances for him to win back-to-back road course races. What makes this a risky prediction, though, is that there are so many drivers in the Cup Series field that have figured out road course racing and are very good at it. An underdog for road course racing is Chris Buescher. We could see him win a road course race in 2025. Same with Tyler Reddick. Think about Kyle Larson, William Byron, Chase Elliott. There are so many drivers that are options to win road course races that it's going to make winning this prediction really tough for SVG, but I have confidence in him. I think he will win back-to-back road course races in 2025. Let's take a step back from wins for a second and come to a prediction like I was questioning, to be honest with you. It has to do with suspensions. We've seen drivers get suspended in the past few years for actions detrimental on the track, that sort of thing. I think because the rule has been revitalized and irony is just a thing, we're going to see 2 suspensions across NASCAR's top 3 series in 2025. In case you missed it, NASCAR came out with a host of updates to the rule book, some new rules, some refinements of rules, and one of those was with the playoff waivers. The new playoff waiver system is very interesting because the consequences really do stick if you miss a race for a reason other than the birth of a child, medical emergency, family emergency, or age restrictions. If a driver misses a race and receives a playoff waiver, that driver will forfeit all current and future playoff points before the playoffs begin, and they'll begin the playoffs with a maximum of 2,000 points. That's big. I'm sure a lot of the reasoning behind this new rule had to do with Kyle Larson and all that happened with the Indy 500 this past year, choosing the Indy 500 over the Coke 600. I don't blame him, but there had to be a line drawn somewhere, and NASCAR drew that line. So with this new rule in place, I think we're going to see some ironic circumstance that 2 drivers are going to be the consequence of this, getting suspended for actions that are detrimental, whether it's a right rear hook, intentional wrecking. I don't care what it is. I think we're going to see 2 suspensions, hopefully 0, but 2 suspensions only amongst NASCAR's top 3 series. Of course, with the playoff waiver, I talked about Kyle Larson and his Indy 500 run. I would be wild if I didn't add a Kyle Larson Indy 500 Coca-Cola 600 prediction in here somewhere. So here it is. If the weather allows, fingers crossed, I really do think that Kyle Larson will beat Tony Stewart's 2001 record. I think he will finish every single lap of the Indy 500 and the Coca-Cola 600, finishing 5th or better in the 500 and finishing 2nd or better in the 600. It is a lofty goal to hit, but I think if any driver is going to do it, it's going to be Kyle Larson. He truly is one of the best racers in the entire world and the most versatile racer in the entire world. And I think if anyone's going to be successful in completing every single lap of the double, plus finishing better than Tony Stewart's record, Kyle Larson is going to be your guy. I am just hoping and praying that the weather actually holds up this year. I would rather it be like 100 degrees, sunny, no clouds in the sky, than it be rainy as it's been the past few years and just putting a whole damper on the event. That said, though, I do think Kyle Larson is going to beat Tony Stewart's record and everyone's going to celebrate. Speaking of Kyle Larson, let's talk about one of his teammates who was the talk of the town in 2024, Alex Bowman. For better or worse, he was the focus of a lot of conversation, whether that was with his stats, whether that was with his contract, whatever it may be. Alex Bowman was talked about quite a bit last season, and I truly do think in 2025 he's going to have a comeback year, exceeding his top 10s from 2024, as well as capturing 2 wins. And I was very hesitant on adding this prediction in here as well, because I don't really think Alex Bowman needs to have a comeback year. I don't think that's the right way to word it, but the internet has different things in mind. So I'm calling it a comeback season. However, if you look at his stats from last year, he had 17 top 10s and 1 win. That is on par with Chase Elliott, most popular driver in the NASCAR Cup Series from 2024. They are on par statistically. He might have 1 less top 10 than Chase Elliott did last season, but it's very hard to call Alex Bowman a bad driver when he's racking up that many top 10s and he's keeping on par with his teammate. So maybe I don't call it a comeback season. I think that's just what the internet would want to call it, but I'm going to call it just a better season than 2024, exceeding expectations from others and just proving that he does deserve that seat. He is probably one of the best 4th place Hendrick Motorsports drivers that I've seen in years. He's able to keep up with his teammates. I think that's going to continue in 2025. So that's that with Alex Bowman. I do think he's going to make the playoffs. Another driver that I think is going to make the playoffs leading into my next prediction is Denny Hamlin. However, I don't think he's going to get far. I think with a new crew chief pairing for him, maybe just the chemistry is not going to be there quite yet in 2025. There's going to be a lot to work through. Part of me thinks he makes the playoffs. but he doesn't make it past the round of 12, so a very early exit for the number 11 team. A lot of changes this year for them, not only with the crew chief, but sponsorship-wise. FedEx is not returning. It doesn't look like Mavis is returning either, so a lot going on behind the scenes. Denny Hamlin, his team that he owns, 2311 Racing, is part of a federal antitrust lawsuit, so he has a lot going on behind the scenes. He's going to be a dad of 3 also in 2025, so I don't know if that's going to hinder his focus a little bit or not. But I don't know. I just don't see him making it past the round of 12. Do I want that? No. Do I think that's probably more plausible this season? Unfortunately, yes. I feel like a lot of my predictions were very focused on the Cup Series, so I apologize for that. Let's talk about the Xfinity Series real quick. Haas factory team. Obviously, yes, they have a team in the Cup Series that they're fielding, one car with Cole Custer. I don't think he's going to get any wins in 2025. Nothing against him. I just think with how the teams are going to be stacked going into the season, Haas factory team needs to find their rhythm. For their Xfinity Series program, though, I think they're going to shock us a little bit, kind of pick up where they left off. I think Haas factory team is going to capture 4 wins in the Xfinity Series, 2 apiece, 2 for Sam Mayer and 2 for Sheldon Creed, who will finally break through and get his first Xfinity Series victory. I mean, come on, you can only be second place so many times. Sheldon Creed at some point is going to break through and get that win, and I think it's going to be this year, a fresh start with a new team. I really do think that Sheldon Creed and Haas factory team are going to gel together really, really well and be successful. And for Sam Mayer, it's a new manufacturer for him, but I think it will ultimately be a pretty good environment for him to excel in. So I see them both getting wins. That's my Xfinity Series exclusive prediction. Let's go to a Truck Series exclusive prediction. Might be bold, but I do think Tony Breidinger does make the playoffs, whether it's on points or whether it's with a win. I'm not 100% sure, and I'm not really willing to lock any prediction down specifically with that. But I do think she's talented enough in her rookie season that she could make the playoffs either shockingly or convincingly. I'm hoping she does. I'm a little biased for this prediction. I will be quite honest with you. As a woman in motorsports, I want other women in motorsports to succeed. But for Tony, I just think she's going to have the right people around her for her to be successful. One of her teammates is a rookie as well, and I think that will help her out, exchanging data, talking through things. And also she has, Corey Heim on her team, one of the drivers that I think is a shoo-in to win the championship this year. Overall, I think she has the recipe for success around her, and I think she would make a run at the championship. I don't know if she'd make it far into the playoffs, probably not, unfortunately, but I do think she at least gets a chance to fight for the championship in 2025. Speaking of championships, the final prediction of this video: who do I think the champions across the board are going to be from Truck, Xfinity, and Cup? Last year, I predicted that we'd have 3 new champions across the board, and I was wrong because thanks Joey Logano, you won the championship for the 3rd time in your career for the Cup Series. But this year, I really do think we're going to have 3 new champions. I think after coming so close and then getting so far, I think it's finally Heim time. Corey Heim has to win the championship in the Truck Series. I think for the Xfinity Series, there are so many drivers to pick from. You could pick a rookie driver like Connor Zilisch, who will blow the competition out of the water potentially. I don't want to put too much pressure on him, but in his rookie season, win the championship. You could look at a younger driver like Jesse Love. Maybe he surprises, gets more consistent, wins the championship. There's so many options here for the Xfinity Series to win the title this year in 2025. Now, of course, the Cup Series is where I get a little anxious because this is where we have more of a potential to see a repeat champion, especially considering how good Penske has been at Phoenix in the fall. It seems inevitable that maybe they continue their streak of winning championships in the Gen 7 car. Maybe we see a Ryan Blaney championship this year and they're just going to trade it off between Joey and Ryan back and forth until we move away from Phoenix as the championship race. However, I do think if Christopher Bell makes the championship for this year, I think he has it if Joe Gibbs Racing can stay away from mechanical failures and if, of course, luck is on his side and the rule book is on his side. So I do think across the board, it would be Corey Heim. I don't want to say Connor Zilisch, but I'm going to say Connor Zilisch. I'm going to look back at this and either look really smart or really dumb. And then in the Cup Series, I think Christopher Bell. I think 2025 is his year. So those are my predictions for the 2025 NASCAR season. What are your predictions? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, make sure to go to AboveTheYellowLine.com to learn more about us, what we do, and to get your ATYL Media merch. Of course, make sure you're following me on all social media platforms to get your breaking NASCAR news, and of course, follow the entire ATYL Media team. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share this with your friends and family, and thank you all so much for watching this episode of Above the Yellow Line. Until next time, and when the season starts, I'll see ya. Bye.